I'm Sonny Haynes, and I'll be your host here on this National Geographic special as we discover the savagery, the brutality of the Port Arthur historic site. So we have this place, as I said, called Port Arthur. I am not an expert in anything. As you guys know, this thing is called a penal colony or penal settlement. The reason why it's called the penal settlement is that a lot of the people who came here thought with their pee-pees and not with their heads. You know, they tended to fail the marshmallow test or bread test. From what I hear, a lot of these people came to prison because they stole like a loaf of bread or something. They were all like starving to death in the UK. And because they were like poor and disease-ridden, like the aristocracy or the royal family, whatever, they're like, hey, like these guys smell, they're very filthy, dirty, disgusting people, you know? I don't want to see them. Send them over there, you know? Somewhere you won't have to look at their decrepit and but yeah, this is it, guys. This is one of the buildings. I don't know what this is. The asylum. Oh, this is like where I guess after they broke everybody, after they broke everybody, you know, mentally and physically, they sent them over here, you know, where they can eventually make peace with God or whatever. I don't know, man. I mean, from the stories I'm hearing here, like it just sucked so much, you know. They just like brought people over here and had them work to the bone, absolute bone, and like with little to no food or resources. But it's not like they had anything at the time that could even like, you know, alleviate that suffering. I mean, back then they had no idea, or I mean, they didn't even have the concept of like rehabilitation or whatever idea of like justice or crime and punishment they had. Sort of came from like religion, you know. They were a very punishment heavy society. That's how they thought of. That's how they operated. Oh, that's cool. So from what I was told from the expert, there was, you know, the industrial, well, before the Industrial Revolution, you have like people migrating from like rural areas to industrialized areas, mass migration, right? And then on top of that, you have people having lots of kids because, you know, the religion tells you not to use contraception. So the church is telling these guys, hey, have as many babies as possible. But then on the one hand, you're like, oh, there's too many people and not enough, like, you know, places to house these people. You don't got enough food. Throw in like famine and then like war, you know, Napoleonic wars, which means like after that's over, you have all these like men, these idle men who are also soldiers, you know. They're hungry, you know, a little horny too. So what do, you know? What do you do? What do you do? So they're like, you know, let's just send these dregs, you know, society, these bottom dwellers, if you will, you know, to some far-flung part of the world. So they sent them to Australia, you know. Antisocial people, you know. Garbage. Nobody wants these people. They stink, they smell bad, they're disease-ridden, you know. There's too many of them. So we'll have them work to the bone. Yeah, the stories here are just sad. People getting like, I mean, even the age of admittance here is like, for boys, it was like between the ages of 7 and 9. It was like the minimum. That was considered a man back then. A kid who was like 7 to 9 years of age. But again, like, it's not like they knew back then. It's not like they even knew like what the, like, you know, the cutoff of what, like, what's considered a biological adult. The foreign concept to them back then. I am thinking that like the whole time I'm here is like that like Protestant work ethic, you know, and where it comes from. The concept of just like work as like penance. It'll work you to the bone. Well, it was really interesting though. She was, I mean, the tour guide talked about this thing called the silent room, which like by today's standards, I gotta say, like they were ahead of their time when they knew like how to really break a person, not even physically but psychologically. They would put these people into like rooms 23 hours a day, no contact, no sound, so they can't even talk or hear anything. They really knew how to like mess with like a person's not only identity, because then they would just like remove whatever name they had and replace it with a number, put like a hood over their head, you know, remove whatever semblance of a person that they were was like just stripped. Complete and utter annihilation of the personality, you know, which is crazy. It's like this place is like a sadist's wet dream is what this is. But it's so weird because like of the relationship it has with like the church too, you know. Convict music. Cause I'm locked up, they won't let me out. They won't let me out, I'm locked up. Yeah, even the idea of like rehabilitation was not even like a thing at this time. The thing is, I mean, where I'm at right now, a lot of people who came over here were re-offenders. So what it meant was like, it's not like the people here were just like, they committed like one crime and they sent them to like the gulags, you know. They were people who would constantly re-offend, and they send them over here as like a last resort. But even still, like a lot of like the crimes that they were like committing weren't considered heinous, you know. A lot of it was just crimes of like circumstance, you know, like of poverty, just really hungry. Needed a loaf of bread, you know. And at the same time, it's not like the powers to be were just trying to like inflict as much pain and suffering as possible. They were just trying to do what they could with the resources at their disposal, you know. They're like, how do we maintain order?
Live in a society.
With the little knowledge we have at that time. So like, you know what? We might as well try to build a society with
live in a society. Society of
extra people. And the thing is, like, I mean, it's also a time when like there was like mass industrialization, so a lot of jobs were being lost to machines, you know. Not like right now. But all this job loss, they didn't really have like a social safety net to really help people. So they're like, yeah, you're on your own there, you know. You're kind of on your own. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won. Very repressive. Very, very repressive. I feel like even the idea of like or the concept of innocent until proven guilty wasn't a thing, you know. I feel like if you were sort of even charged with an offense, your chances of even being let off with even a warning was very slim to none. It's like these guys were being placed in prison for, I don't know, something as minor as like a drug offense, and then just worked to the bone, you know. no opportunity to really get out, because like once you're in, like the chances of you staying were very high, just because it was so repressive and controlling. I mean, the chances of you abiding by these like very strict rules were just very small, you know. So you were probably gonna break one rule or another and just end up staying here for longer than you were intended to. Crazy, right? Drug loss, I mean bread loss. Whoa. And then of course there are people who made money off of this thing. You know, they would exploit these workers somehow. Not unlike another prison system in the developed world, you know? Right now, if you will. Could you imagine a prison system based on capitalism, guys? You know, where they just exploit the labor of poor hapless souls who were just born into poverty, you know, who were just a product of their environment. Yeah, but how much, like, I mean, that whole like argument, oh, I mean, how much control or how much volition do you really have over your, I don't know, circumstances or whatever? You can't really always, can you always really blame, you know, your circumstance? I mean, if you're born into hardship, I feel like there should be some sort of leeway. I mean, most society, most places in the world believe that anyways. Most civilized places in the world, they tend to lean on the like towards, you know, rehabilitation, learning how to like create or rebuild a citizen who'll be a productive member of society. That's what you want, you know, ideally. I mean, the idea of just like punishing someone until they become like angry and just full of hate creates problems, like, you know, down the line, you know, when they come out. We all know that, like, the whole story, you know. You send a person into prison and it's gonna make a hardened criminal. Later on, sad. Imagine all the guys and women who just like perished here for crimes that weren't really like very, by today's standards, very minor, you know. Minor. What it means for society at large.
Society rules.
When some of these people come out, you know, or even their rights, you know, their human rights. Did he do it? However, today we err on the side of caution, you know. You are always presumed to be innocent until proven guilty, because the onus is on you to prove this person is without a shadow of a doubt guilty. Because you know what's more awful than like letting a guilty person free? You know, imprisoning an innocent person. That's horrible. Andy Dufresne made it out of jail. Andy Dufresne made it out of that jail, you know? Good old Andy. It's interesting how you could even still see even today, like the echoes of that Protestant, you know, Anglican work ethic, even in the Americas today. This hyper-productive, you know, imbalanced approach to work and life, which comes out in strange ways, both like culturally and politically too. You see it, like even now, like in the US, for example, for some strange reason, there's like this like strange obsession with like infidelity, divorce, almost as though it's some like crime that needs to be punished. It's very odd. Yeah. Infidelity. Infidelity. A lot of the convicts actually who came, I read somewhere like the ratio for men to women was almost 10 to 1 in some places, or even 11 to 1. This place was just like ridden with guys, you know? It was testosterone laden. Could you imagine not only being hungry, right? But like angry. And then on top of that, all it is just dudes. Just dudes. And then they instilled this program, you know, try to bring us a lot more women in. Apparently, I mean, if these guys have families, they won't go like, you know, ape shit, you know, as you would. It's almost like they recognize that if a person hasn't got their needs met, you know, if a person doesn't have like a, what's the word that I'm looking for here? Like a reasonable method, but also like a civilized way of being able to have their needs met in a way where you don't have to resort to like, you know, violence or crime. Things are peaceful. But as if everything works, you know, as if society works, if your institutions work, if your system works. But if there's just like way too many people, or you just have like a very crappy way of administrating things, you know, then it shows. Crime goes through the roof. People resort to violence. A lot of it really is just tied to like poverty, you know. It's kind of sad. I mean, of course you have like your one-offs, people who just like commit crime for the sake of committing crime, but they're very rare. Most crime I feel like is sort of committed out of like social reasons. Man, imagine trying to fight the state. You think Jesus could have cut it over here? Probably not, eh? That guy refused to work. He would be so anti this place, it's not even funny, you know? He would just come over here and just like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, you're gonna need food. He'd be like, no, I'll just make my own bread, you know? I'll make 2, 3, 4 fishes, you know? I'll talk a bit. I'll talk a lot, actually. And then I'll go to bed and do the same thing the next day, over and over again. Yeah, there's like this emphasis here on like work. It's very imbalanced. The way they would even use like the rod to punish people here. You know that saying, spare the rod, spoil the child? I think you should do that, you know? Corporal punishment just does not bode well. I mean, if you want like a person who's just like broken down, their self-esteem is depleted, they're not very confident, and by all means, I mean, beat the crapola out of that kid. But like, now you're saying, oh, what, isn't like a spoiled kid even worse? Not really. I'd rather have a kid that's spoiled than a kid who's just like broken, or an adult who's broken. That's more sad. I mean, the spoiled person will be a little intolerable, you know, a little obnoxious, but that's way better than a person who's just like broken. Yeah, imagine living a life of just misery. A nation's laws are a reflection of the people and culture of that nation. So bear with me here. Like, if your culture is all about like, you know, work, something's gotta give eventually, though. I mean, all that repression, you know? I mean, you're not getting laid. you're just going to church all day, and then for some strange reason you have this strange obsession with like penance and suffering, you know? It seems like it's like the perfect storm for like deviant behavior. Could you imagine working like 12, 14, 15 hours a day, every day? I go apeshit. Oh, that looks pretty cool. The house on the hill. Bars. Bars. If you can't do the time, you'll probably really consider ending yourself, because this place is depressing, guys. Absolutely depressing. Jeez. Ugh. Man. Thank God I live in today's time, eh? Jeez. Although it depends like what part of the world you live in. Like I said earlier, like some parts of like the industrialized world still sort of have echoes of this stuff. I don't know, like if you're like too young to know, but like Bill Clinton was like on trial, almost lost his job because of like he cheated on his wife. You know how nuts that is? Nobody cares, yeah. Oh my God, this guy, he's cheating. Let's take away his job. Doesn't make any sense. Or like the whole Ashley Madison scandal. Or even like I said, like corporate jails. You know, the idea of exploiting like people for like labor, just for nothing, because you know they can't do anything about it. Why? Because, well, they're incarcerated, and if you're incarcerated, you're considered less than human. It's that Protestant and like just those pilgrims, you know, those weird pilgrims in the US, they just really, they're really no fun, you know. They're the no fun police, the pilgrims. They're strange, you know. They're like the Amish, very backward, very religious. Man, you can still hear like the echoes of lost souls here. Shh. No Diddy. No Diddy. No Diddy. See, you can still hear it. See, it's nuts. Man, if I was like stuck, I would definitely go try to swim. But apparently 90% of the convicts here didn't even know how to swim. So you already knew what type of race they were. I don't know. It's stupid. Stupid joke. I'm sorry. Yeah. Natural law versus positive law. You know? These guys were positivists. The UK was a nation of positivist laws, or whatever. It's getting windy again. Oh, wow. So this place is actually very special. This is where Annie Letterman spent most of her time after the Brennan Schaub incident. Yeah, see? Solitary confinement. Wow. Amazing. Annie Letterman. I think she slept right here, you know? Paid penance or whatever. 35 lashes to the, with whatever derriere she has or whatever. I don't know. Annie Letterman. Wow. And just over there in the distance, that's where Annie Letterman lives. Or her family, like currently or whatever. I got nothing. Yeah. This is cool though. This is like Annie Letterman's culture or whatever, you know? Like the Jesus freaks. Annie Letterman! We still think you're funny! Shh, do you guys hear that? No diddy. No diddy. If only these walls can talk, eh? If you can't do the crime, then you'll have to don't. No titty. No titty. Ugh. I am the law. I am the law. Imagine, if you will, a global system of torture where the entire planet are sequestered to their rooms for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, where all they can do is get toilet paper and a measly stipend from their government or whatever for a crime so heinous, so deplorable, the entire world had to shut down.